Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. Today I've got the pleasure of sharing with you Your Physique of March 1951 with Leo Robert on the cover. I've shared this picture a couple of times now in several videos featuring Leo Robert, simply because I find it absolutely outstanding. I mean, look at the wonderful shape and definition of his abdominals, his biceps. I mean, I know that back then their legs were not as muscular or defined as today, but even so, I mean, just admiring this phenomenal photo of Leo. I mean, the upper torso is just brilliant. I think it's a wonderful photo of one of the greats from the silver era. Truly a great, from at least from the Canadian point of view, of history of physical culture. Leo Robert stands as one of the greatest. Truly wonderful. Now, I think that within this magazine, again, we've got some fantastic articles. With I guess the first that I really want to talk about has to be Reg Park's article on page 24, and that is a smashing blow to stubborn muscles. This particular article is very interesting in that it describes Reg Park's superset routine for mass. I mean, here's a wonderful photo here of Reg Park, and I have featured the video on Reg Park's superset routine for mass, but briefly going through it again. What's so interesting about it is that when I've spoken to, I guess, John Park, he has mentioned that Reg Park, at least in our interviews, wasn't very big on supersetting. However, like many pioneers, he tried almost every single technique in the book, including supersets. At least he tried it on early on in his career, and he actually found rather a lot of success. Here we have quite a lot of wonderful photos as well, including one of Steve Reeves at a very young age, which I will blow up for you too. That's just phenomenal. But getting to Reg Park's superset for mass, if we go all the way up to page 38, where the article continues and concludes, we have it in print right here, which I'll now blow up for you. As I said, I've already done a video on this, but I may as well just go through it again. And there it is. Oop, I have to now go out a bit. There we go. So the first exercise is the cheating curl with a barbell, using a bit of body motion, obviously, to hit the biceps, supersetted with triceps. A triceps curl, that is a triceps extension lying on a flat bench. The next superset is the bent arm lateral on a flat bench for the chest, so it's basically a fly, supersetted with parallel bar dips. The third superset is the bent over row with a barbell with shrugs with a barbell. And finally, and for the legs, you've got squats as well as standing thigh curls, supersetted, and finally abdominals, leg raises, and side bends. A lot of people were, when I made this video, complained or commented, oh, hang on, Reg Park doesn't talk about a superset here, doesn't specify a superset for delts. Well, if you think about it, you're hitting delts already with the parallel bar dips, as well as bent over rowing and shrugging. So I assume that for this reason Reg Park did not have to include shoulder exercises, because after all of those compound exercises you would pretty much be thoroughly fatigued, at least the delts would be. It was a great article and really an eye-opener again as to all the different methods that Reg Park used. He wasn't always just using the 5x5. He used a whole range of different techniques, and again, this is highlighted by my conversations not just with John, but also with Mark, his training partner. So yeah, it's a brilliant article. Now let's go through the whole magazine now. The first article is actually on weightlifting, and I tend to skip this because I know that this is not necessarily the history of weightlifting. This is more the history of bodybuilding, this channel. What's your problem? Some wonderful photos here. For example, we have here Barton Horvath with his comeback He really developed a lot of mass at 40 years of age. Here we have a very rare photo of Artie Zeller, who was later a very famous golden era photographer for Joe Weider. We can see that he had a very, very aesthetic physique during the silver era. He was actually also Marvin Eder's training partner for a long time, and he's a very good friend of him. Moving on. Joints of the body. Again, these are anatomy lessons. The only great thing about this, I mean, I don't need an anatomy lesson, I'm a scientist, but the great thing, of course, about this particular article is the wonderful photo, again, of the very aesthetic Leo Robert. Again, he had such phenomenal abdominals. In every pose, you can see how beautifully edged those abdominals are. Fantastic. The development of the biceps and the forearm. This is what an excellent article that I did a feature video because here Charles A. Smith presents a whole range of different exercises using the cable station. Very unusual exercises actually, such as all of these. And what's common about all of these exercises is that usually you can see that the elbows are either parallel to the shoulders or above the head. Again, very typical of silver era bodybuilding techniques is that they understood that the biceps is not just, doesn't just have the function of contracting the arm or supination. It also has the function of helping raise the elbow up and above the shoulder joint. And so they would incorporate for biceps exercises that made sure that the elbow was high. Another great lesson, I guess, that I've learned from the silver era legends. Now this is a very interesting article that I'm pretty sure John Park, his son, would be very, very interested in learning about, and that is the article here written by Joe Weider states that during the Mr. World of 1950, which was won, the AAU Mr. World was won by John Farbotnik, and the story says, this story in particular, this article states that Reg Park was in attendance, and essentially the AAU prevented him from competing and only allowed him to do an exhibition, a posing exhibition. Apparently the crowd was booing and were obviously upset because Reg Park did have a superior physique when you compare it to the winner, John Farbotnik, who was an AAU athlete. And I mean, if you just have a look at the midsections, you can clearly see the difference in muscularity. I mean, the arms, everything, the legs. You can see how well Reg Park presented himself. He had way more definition. Look at the second place. This guy won second place, I forget his name. But John Farbotnik, I mean, as much as I'm a fan of him, I mean, he couldn't stand right next to Reg. It's impossible. I mean, Reg just would have cleaned out of the competition. He should have, but he was not allowed to compete. Why? Well, back then, Bob Hoffman was already having a war with Joe Weider in the muscle mags, and of course, Reg Park was appearing in all the Weider mags, and therefore, being the AAU competition, Bob Hoffman could not have a Weider man winning the Mr. World in 1950, the AAU Mr. World, and so therefore he was only allowed to give a posing exhibition. This is why this article is called "Who Should Be Mr. World for 1950?" I mean, it's really a sad story when you see the photos, and it is obvious that Reg Park was robbed in 1950. Another great article I read was The Problem of Calf Specialization. I also did a separate video on this article, which features several movements, including the calf leg press, a very interesting movement from Alan Stephan, which is like a double seat. I forgot what I called it, but it's basically like a double contraction calf, a single-legged calf raise, where you place a barbell or a dumbbell on your knee, and you don't just lift the foot to contract the calf, but then you push the knee forward. You'd have to watch the video to understand it, and it causes an insane cramp in the calf. I really liked that exercise. I've never seen it before. Of course, there are other exercises that are well recognizable, such as the standing calf raise, as well as squat jumps, which are also going to target the calf. And these very simple exercises I think are fantastic, because this is what I like about the silver era exercises. A lot of these exercises are long forgotten. And guess what? Nowadays, with the whole coronavirus issue, if you have a good set of weights and have this kind of knowledge, you can have one hell of a workout at home. Because remember, back then, there were basically no gyms. People just had to purchase their own barbell set, and most gyms were just garage gyms at home. And so these ideas came out for all of these people training at home, basically with a set of weights, and at best they would have a bench on top of that. And I mean, they developed fantastic physiques simply using free weights. And so I love these exercises. I love incorporating them into my own workout, because I've got a home gym myself, and they are just brilliant. It's kind of like you know, I feel kind of bad for all the people that now cannot train in gyms, because I know that worldwide most gyms are closing because of this issue. But if you have this kind of knowledge, you can have a fantastic workout. I already covered a smashing blow to stubborn muscles. And another a fantastic article was Reeves is developing the forearms. I have covered one video on this already, and that is Steve's recollections of the strongmen of the past and the athletes, and how they developed an incredibly strong grip and powerful forearm. Now, the bodybuilding and barbell routine, the bodybuilding routine, which consists of barbell and dumbbell exercises, is actually going to be presented through Old School Labs, and that is because I am now part of the team there, and I'm creating YouTube videos for their channel. And if you want to catch the barbell and dumbbell routine, the bodybuilding routine suggested by Steve Reeves to develop thick and strong forearms, I recommend you watch that video. I'm going to link it to this one above. It should be aired tonight as well as this video. So essentially, if you want to know it, I believe that the first exercise was a reverse curl, followed by a seated single arm dumbbell wrist curl, followed by dumbbell rotations, followed by a very bizarre, what I call the Reeves wrist press, and finally there was one other exercise that escapes me now. Oh yeah, that was wrist rolling. So a lot of exercises are covered here. Some very unique exercises from Reeves. Again, I highly recommend you watch that video on the Old School Labs website. A brilliant video. Of course, covering, I should say it's brilliant, I made it. But I mean, it's a brilliant article from Reeves explaining some very unusual exercises. All of these exercises performed in the silver era, you're not going to see nowadays. I mean, you are going to see some basic wrist curls, but things like the Reeves wrist press, I've never heard of before. It's a brilliant exercise. And then the rest of this was basically Secrets of the Champions. And I haven't read that one, but I do like that wonderful photo of Marvin Eder. That's just beautiful. And finally, what is the ideal physique? That is the end of Your Physique, March 1951. At least my review of it. I think it was a brilliant magazine. The photos within are wonderful. The articles are fantastic. And of course, the artwork on most of these covers from the 50s, from the 60s, all the way back from the 40s, are just pieces of art. I mean, this should be framed. Look at that wonderful physique again of Leo Robert. Chiseled abs, peaking biceps, that beautiful tilt, that wonderful V-taper, thick forearms, flaring lats, thick slaps for chest, and strong, powerful thighs, beautiful diamond-shaped calves. I mean, that is aesthetic as it gets. A wonderful cover of Leo Robert. Hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm. Leave me a comment and thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my research, please donate via PayPal. Become a patron, visit my website for out-of-print books and courses, and again, get in touch if you wish to pass on your relics and literature. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and bye for now.